Hi everyone, we are at the Gartner Analytics Conference right now, and with me I have my friend Russ. We have been hanging out once a week for a while now, or something like that.
Probably better part of 8 months.
Yeah, and Russ comes from a very interesting background. Actually, why didn't you tell them your background?
So, Russ Lawrence, I work for UnitedHealth Group. I'm part of Optum Tech. My official title is a distinguished engineer, and I've been working in data engineering and data science for the last several years, and kind of really helping understand how do we actually improve decisions with our business partners. So from a technologist, I come from more of a business background versus a technology background. So I do more work on the business side than typically with my technology partners.
And Russ, because of your background, you started from an interesting point in our journey. Normally we say, go sense, then explore, then optimize, start from the data, go to the pattern, then get to the insight. You jumped right into optimize. So could you tell them about that?
Oh, absolutely. So I think optimize was one of the key points for me to understand this journey of AI, because one thing we always struggle with is how do we actually show value to our business teams? And when I understood what optimize could do, really working with our business teams, now every time we go into a meeting, we work with a confusion matrix, we work on what are the formulas that represent the business process, and use that information as our first step in communicating, here's the use case that we want to start studying. And so Optimize really provided that bridge for us to back into what we should be doing from an AI and ML perspective. It gave us the flexibility to work with our business partners using their language in their terms to help them understand where we could actually find net incremental benefits for the business teams, focused on benefits, costs, and capacity. And then as we started moving through this and understanding how we could use Optimize, our journey then, as we focused on the benefits, costs, and capacity, we then turned to both sense and explore to really understand what level of signal do we have in our data, and then using explore for our EDA function to find out what are the key variables that we should be using in our models going forward, and then not only the variables, but finding the additional relationships across the variables where they behave similar to other variables and where they don't behave similar to other variables. Probably one of the biggest insights that we had was in our first use case was looking in, I think I'll call it breaking the bias between AI and BI. A lot of times we know we're very successful when we use business intelligence and we get anchored on specific metrics that we use to show value. And what we were able to do with the tool, with Able, we were able to then say, break a bias by showing that either a assumption that we had was beneficial or had a positive impact on the outcome variable, or it had a negative impact on the outcome variable. And we were able to do this because the tool, the Able tool itself, provides that information real time back to us to show model agreement and model disagreement, so that we can actually use a unemotional analysis to then understand, should we be investigating this variable or should we move on to the next variable? And then our third step, and as we started progressing through, the Sense tool really helped us understand the signal in our data. And this is a key component because a lot of times we will actually go and find data sets and think we actually have a valuable data set. But what actually happens is we can then bring the data in and start getting a readout from readiness, and then looking at the score, knowing, is this data too good to be true, or is there not enough signal? And then in addition to that, we also get a readout knowing the quality of data within this file itself. So then we can then look at it and understand composition of the data set, the signal, and is it usable, or should we be using this in going forward in our analytics? Perhaps the biggest thing that we also were able to do in a short amount of time, and when we talk about a short amount of time, it's shrinking that from weeks down to days and even to hours. We're able to actually go through and identify variables that are predictive and that have impact on the data set, or they're having too much impact on the data set, and then within the tool we can start filtering that data out and then eliminating that and then rerunning the analysis to see, does it improve the signal? And when we improve the signal, what we're actually trying to do is we're trying to move back towards the middle, a 5.5, a 6.5, somewhere in that area to really understand saying we've got good quality data to then start progressing forward into the journey again. So as we started moving through, our journey really started with optimize and understanding what's the formulas, what's the model for the business, then using that information, then using sense and explore to really understand the signal and the quality of the data that we have, and then taking that information forward and then using that within the optimization problem to then model the behavior of our backcasting is saying this is what happened, and then if we accept the predictions, this is what would have happened. So as we started seeing that, then we could see the transition of understanding where we could actually apply constraints, benefits, costs, and capacity to really help the business understand where their opportunity is to improve their business process today.
And Russ, I really like this journey that you started from Optimize. And I remember this backcasting thing you were talking about. It was like, if the numbers don't match what my business knows about it, the business, they won't believe this.
Yes.
So that exercise you went through where you were kind of going through the model metrics, going through all the drivers, could you talk a little bit about that?
Yep, absolutely. So if we step over here, when we first ran the optimized process, so understanding each line here, our organization's, I'll call it type A, very data driven about the numbers. And what we want to be able to do is when we go into a presentation, meeting with our senior executives, we have to have a solid understanding of what everything means. And so working with RG and Jonathan and Alex, what we were able to do is we were able to then essentially peel back the onion and understand how are the numbers generated from putting it into the first step, into your benefit, your cost. So modeling what the current behavior is, the percentage of transactions that were touched or worked by a team, understanding what wasn't worked, how then that fit into the confusion matrix, and then understanding once the optimization ran, we understood from the funnel true positives, false positives, total positives in this order. In here, then we were able to put that into our confusion matrix and then see the shift from true positives across from before to after to really understand how the business would actually change once we were able to identify more true positives.
Yeah, and because the model is being evaluated on a like 25% of the data, that's actually modeling what the expected value for UHG would be, as opposed to, hey, here's the log loss, right?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So I think that's another big benefit, because when we talk about log loss, AUC, or other very specific terms to data in data science, our business teams, not to say they're not interested, but it actually takes away from the impact, because when you can actually talk about costs and benefits to the business and showing when you apply AI, this is how it actually impacts your business process, that's more powerful than talking about log loss or, here's my cost function. That actually becomes a minor discussion. The major discussion is looking at it and saying, we can actually identify opportunity for you to improve your business by making a set of small adjustments, and then this is what the expected output and this is what the expected change will be to your business process.
Isn't it a crazy idea that business cares about how their KPI get affected rather than stuff like log loss?
Oh yes,
it's
absolutely.
a crazy idea.
Yeah, it's a crazy idea, but it's one that's actually very relevant, because now all my meetings now from when we talk about data science, we don't start talking about scikit-learn, a regression model, or logistic regression. We talk about the confusion matrix. We talk about benefit to the business, a cost to the business, a penalty to the business, and if everything's working correctly, we know that we're doing something right. And so from there, we're able to then have that conversation. It's very meaningful, and it actually helps us accelerate the process and the projects to be talking about the confusion matrix and the benefits versus talking about a loss function.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, confusion matrix or true positive is an AI is making a prediction, and sometimes it will get it right. So it says, hey, act on this, and it was right. That's a true positive. It tells you act on this and it got it wrong. That's a false positive. It told you don't act upon it and it got it wrong. That's a false negative. So a confusion matrix is the 4 things that can happen when the AI is giving a prediction. Is it right or wrong, and did it tell you to act or not? But that's what makes it affect the business, and you're bringing it right down to that.
Yes, and that's really the key of how we've actually been able to change the dialogue, change the conversation with our business teams now. When we go in, we've actually got a solid plan to understand and show, here's an example of how we're actually thinking about the confusion matrix. Here's how we're thinking about your business process. Model that and show the variables that, hey, business, you do have a lot of flexibility to put in your own variables and create your formulas, and then to use that, and then that's really where we can use Optimize to apply that information back into the AI.
And one of my favorite things is, all AI is fallible. Every AI will make mistakes. It's not magic. When you start thinking about the confusion matrix, you're bringing it up front, that AI will be wrong. Let's look at the net benefit of the AI, despite the penalties. And that makes it practical as opposed to, hey, it's a magic thing, I'll wave some wand and some value will come out.
Yes,
right?
exactly. And I think when you can put costs in front of the business teams and show them what the impact is based on their formulas, it really resonates, because everything that we do is based on a cost-benefit analysis, and it's taking us one step closer to the cost-benefit analysis and showing them how they can take that, the work that they've done, apply it to a set of formulas to show what incremental value would be to that team using this product.
And let's come to Explore for a second, because we had a funny thing happen here, because we sync up every week, and we had this pattern where the AI completely contradicted the BI. So think of it as BI saying something is good and AI something says it's bad. And I was a little nervous. I'm like, dude, is there a bug in the product? Did we get this wrong?
Yes.
But thankfully the AI told us why it was disagreeing.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, definitely. So when we were looking at and I think this gets to a larger issue that we struggle with a lot. AI versus BI, BI versus AI. And when we're looking at a specific pattern, we're looking at a grouping of variables, or a single grouping of, this is where people have been successful in the past through BI. However, when we started controlling for other variables and overlaid the AI actually showed us that the pattern disappeared. And when we started discussing and looking at this, the most interesting thing was the readout that we got from the tool of showing us model agreement or model disagreement with the outcome variable in our prediction. So that we now understood that the pattern that what we thought was a pattern originally, it actually turns out not to be a pattern, because we could see the models all disagreed on the impact to our outcome variable.
Yeah, so you're not just looking at one model, you're looking at many things and getting to kind of diversity of opinions, if you will, which we try to do in the company.
Absolutely, and I think that's the most impactful thing. It's where you've got a number of models, you've got 83 models that we're able to run, and when they show agreement or disagreement, or even if it's a 50-50, we know exactly now how to approach that and how much time and effort we should spend analyzing that specific variable or set of variables that we're looking at.
Fantastic. One final question. We had the Gartner thing. You've been going to some sessions already. What are you hearing at Gartner, and how does it tie to what we are doing?
Definitely. So a lot of what I'm hearing is about AI, the ML, and looking at it, how do you actually use this for decision? I sat in one session this morning about decision thinking, which is exactly what we're doing here, is saying, looking at it not only from a point of view of saying, here's the AI and ML, but actually looking at the decision that you're making. In the case that where I was sitting in was approve a loan or not approve a loan. And then when you start peeling that back, you can actually see the layers of the context of how you need to use that information. And then it all starts making sense that as you start using AI and ML applying this, how do you actually keep track of the information? How do you start recording the transactions and the decisions that you're making? And it all ties together here with the journey that we're on using Able and the 3 tools that are provided within the application today.
Any final advice for people?
I think what I told you last week, RG, is data talks. Don't be afraid to listen to your data. Sometimes you're going to be curious, and then you'll be surprised on what you thought was a pattern and what isn't a pattern. So keep an open mind about what the tool is going to bring forward and help you understand.
Thank you so much. This is wonderful. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you very much.